The rise of the Galactic. In a distant corner of the galaxy, where stars twinkled like diamonds against the dark canvas of space, there thrived a powerful race known as the Galactic. They were tall, with long limbs and skin that shimmered like polished metal. Their eyes sparkled with intelligence, and their minds were sharp, making them formidable in both technology and warfare. For centuries, they had built a mighty empire, expanding their reach across star systems. The Galactic had a rich culture that valued knowledge and strength. They believed in the importance of progress and saw themselves as the rightful rulers of the cosmos. Their great cities, built on floating islands above vibrant oceans, were marvels of engineering. Towering spires reached toward the sky, adorned with intricate carvings that told the stories of their history and achievements. Everywhere, the sounds of industry echoed, as Galactic worked tirelessly to push the boundaries of science and innovation. At the center of their civilization was the Council of Elders, a group of wise and powerful leaders. They guided the Galactic with a firm but fair hand, making decisions for the benefit of their race. The Elders believed in expansion. They taught that to thrive, they must conquer new worlds. So, the Galactic set out to explore the galaxy, seeking new resources and territories to claim as their own. As they journeyed through the stars, the Galactic encountered many other species. Some were peaceful, offering trade and friendship, while others were hostile and resistant to their influence. The Galactic, confident in their power, often chose to dominate rather than negotiate. They would send fleets of warships to subjugate those who opposed them, leaving behind a trail of fear and destruction. With every victory, their reputation grew. They were feared and respected across the galaxy. One of the most significant events in their rise was the discovery of the planet Vortiga. This lush, green world was rich in resources, with vast forests and sprawling oceans. The Elders recognized its potential and ordered an immediate invasion. The native inhabitants, a primitive species called the Trillocs, were no match for the advanced technology of the Galactic. In a swift and brutal campaign, the Galactic crushed the Trillocs and claimed Vortiga for themselves. As the Galactic settled on Vortiga, they began to extract its resources. They built massive factories that belched smoke into the sky, creating weapons and ships to fuel their ever-growing empire. The Elders were pleased. Their ambition seemed limitless. However, not everyone was happy. Some Galactic began to question the Council's methods. They wondered if there was a better way to achieve greatness without resorting to violence and domination. Among those who questioned the Council was a young Galactic named Zarek. He was a brilliant engineer, known for his innovative designs. Zarek believed that true strength lay in cooperation and understanding, not in fear. He saw the destruction caused by their conquests and felt a deep sense of sorrow for the lost lives. He wanted to find a way to unite the species of the galaxy rather than conquer them. Zarek's ideas were met with skepticism. The Elders dismissed his thoughts as naive, believing that power was the only way to ensure the Galactic's survival. They valued strength above all else, and any sign of weakness was frowned upon. Despite this, Zarek continued to speak out. He gathered like-minded Galactic, who shared his vision for a different future. As the months passed, the Galactic's empire continued to grow. They expanded their fleets and established more colonies across the galaxy. The Council of Elders celebrated their successes, but Zarek remained worried. He felt a storm brewing on the horizon, one that could threaten everything they had built. One day, discovered an ancient artifact while exploring the ruins of a long-lost civilization on Vortiga. It was a small, glowing sphere that pulsed with energy. When he touched it, visions flooded his mind. Images of destruction and chaos, of a race that had once been powerful but had fallen to ruin. He realized that they were on a similar path, and if they did not change their ways, they too would face the consequences of their actions. Determined to share this revelation, Zarek returned to the capital city and presented his findings to the Council. He urged them to reconsider their methods, to seek peace instead of war. But the Elders were not interested. They viewed Zarek's warnings as mere distractions from their plans for conquest. Instead, they accused him of treason and ordered him to stop his campaign for peace. Feeling disheartened, Zarek realized that he could not change the minds of the elders alone. He needed to gather support from the people. He began to speak at gatherings, telling stories of the suffering caused by their conquests. Slowly, he gained followers. More Galactic started to see the wisdom in his words and began to question the council's authority. As Zarek's movement grew, so did the tension within Galactic society. The elders, feeling threatened by Zarek's influence, decided to silence him once and for all. They sent enforcers to capture him, but Zarek and his followers had already prepared for such a response. They fled into the wilds of Vortiga, determined to continue their fight for change. The rise of the Galactic was marked by ambition and conquest, but within the shadows, a new force was emerging, one that sought to challenge the status quo. Zarek and his followers were ready to fight not just for their survival, but for the soul of their race. The galaxy was about to witness the beginning of a profound transformation, one that would alter the fate of the Galactic forever. As the first stars of evening lit the sky, Zarek looked up at the cosmos with a renewed sense of purpose. The journey ahead would be difficult, but he believed that true strength lay not in domination but in unity. And so, the next chapter in the story of the Galactic began, setting the stage for the trials and tribulations that lay ahead. The echoes of their past would soon resonate through the galaxy, and change was on the horizon. The gathering storm. In the shadow of the Galactic's vast cities, where once proud towers touched the sky, a quiet rebellion was brewing. Zarek and his followers had found refuge in the dense forests of Vortiga, far from the watchful eyes of the Council of Elders. Their makeshift camp, hidden among the towering trees, was a place of hope and planning. Here they dreamed of a future where strength was not measured by conquest, but by unity. Zarek stood before a gathering of his followers, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. Around him, a diverse group of Galactic, once loyal to the Council, now shared a common goal. Some were soldiers disillusioned by the endless wars, while others were engineers, artists, and scholars who longed for a different path. They all believed in Zarek's vision for a new Galactic, one that would seek peace and cooperation with other races. Today marks a new beginning, Zarek declared, his voice ringing through the forest clearing. We have seen the consequences of our actions, and we cannot turn back. We must unite as one to change the fate of our people. Together, we can show the galaxy that the Galactic can be more than conquerors. We can be protectors. The crowd erupted in murmurs of agreement. Many had witnessed the suffering caused by their conquests and felt a deep desire for redemption. They were tired of being feared and hated. They wanted to be respected for their intelligence and strength, not just for their weapons. But Zarek knew the journey ahead would not be easy. The Council of Elders would not simply let them go. They would send out patrols to hunt them down, to silence their voices. To counter this threat, Zarek called for a council of his own, inviting his followers to bring their unique skills to the table. Each member contributed ideas on how to spread their message. They devised a plan to create small outposts where they could offer aid and support to other races. Zarek envisioned a network of allies across the galaxy, building trust and respect through cooperation. As they plotted their strategy, news of their movement began to spread. Whispers of the new Galactic reached the ears of those who had grown weary of the Council's harsh rule. People began to join Zarek's cause, bringing with them tales of oppression and loss. This only fueled the determination of Zarek and his followers. However, with each new recruit, the Council grew more aware of the rising threat. They convened in the grand chambers of their capital, where the elders, dressed in flowing robes, discussed their next move. They were proud beings, and the thought of dissent angered them. Zarek has become a cancer in our society, one elder said, his voice filled with disdain. We must eradicate this movement before it spreads further. Another elder, wise and thoughtful, interjected, but we cannot act rashly. The people are growing restless. If we are too aggressive, we risk pushing them into Zarek's arms. We must be strategic. The council debated long into the night, weighing their options. Some favored brute force, while others advocated for manipulation. In the end, they decided to launch a campaign of disinformation. They would portray Zarek and his followers as traitors, threatening the very foundation of Galactic society. Meanwhile, Zarek was aware of the risks. He and his followers had to be careful not to attract too much attention too soon. They began to hold secret meetings, discussing plans to make their movement stronger. They practiced diplomacy, reaching out to neighboring races who had also suffered under Galactic rule. The goal was to forge alliances that could help them stand against the Council. One night, under the cover of darkness, Zarek and a small group ventured to meet the leaders of the Clarions, a race known for their agility and stealth. The Clarions had a long history of conflict with the Galactic and were wary of them. Zarek understood that gaining their trust would be difficult. As they approached the Clarion village, hidden among the tall grass, Zarek felt a mixture of hope and trepidation. He had heard stories of their cunning warriors and their fierce independence. This was a critical moment for the new Galactic. The meeting was tense. The Clarions were cautious, their leaders eyeing Zarek and his companions with suspicion. Zarek spoke passionately, explaining their desire for peace and cooperation. He described the suffering the Galactic had caused and the need for change. "We do not seek to conquer," he said, his voice steady. "We want to build a future where all races can thrive together. We understand your pain, and we want to help." The Clarion leaders listened carefully. After much deliberation, they finally responded. "Your words are noble, Zarek, but can you guarantee that your people will truly change? Words mean little without action." Zarek nodded. "We will prove ourselves. We are ready to support those who oppose the Council. We will stand together against oppression." The Clarions agreed to join forces with the new Galactic, recognizing the potential for a powerful alliance. They offered resources and information about the Council's movements, which Zarek gratefully accepted. This success energized the followers of Zarek, reinforcing their belief that they were on the right path. As Zarek returned to their camp, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The tides were shifting, and he knew that the rise of the new Galactic was only beginning. But in the shadows, the Council was plotting their next move, determined to crush any threat to their authority. Zarek's journey would soon lead him into a storm of conflict, where the fate of both the Galactic and their allies hung in the balance. The galaxy was about to witness a clash of ideals, a battle between the old ways and a new vision for the future. As Zarek gathered his followers around the campfire, he knew that they would need every ounce of courage to face what was coming. Together, they would either rise to greatness or fall to ruin. The first strike. The alliance between Zarek's new Galactic and the Clarions brought a surge of energy and hope to both groups. In the weeks that followed their secret meeting, they worked tirelessly to strengthen their bonds. They shared resources, trained together, and developed strategies to counter the Council of Elders. Zarek felt a sense of unity that had been missing in the Galactic for far too long. However, the Council was not blind to the growing unrest among their people. Word of Zarek's rebellion had reached them, and they were determined to act swiftly and decisively. The elders knew they needed to crush this movement before it could gain more support. They began to mobilize their forces, deploying scouts to track down Zarek and his followers. In a hidden valley where the new Galactic and Clarions trained, Zarek gathered his closest allies. Among them was Lyra, a fierce Clarion warrior known for her agility and quick thinking. She stood beside Zarek, her eyes sharp and focused. "We need to strike first. If we wait for the Council to find us, we will lose our chance to make an impact," she urged. Zarek considered her words carefully. He knew that an offensive could attract even more attention, but he also understood the urgency of their situation. "You're right, Lyra. We must show the galaxy that we are not afraid. But we need to choose our target wisely. We must demonstrate our strength without provoking a full-scale war." After much discussion, they decided to raid a supply depot on the outskirts of the Council's territory. This depot was known to store weapons, resources, and information that could help their cause. If they could take it, it would not only bolster their supplies, but also send a message to the Council and the people. The new Galactic were ready to fight back. As they prepared for the mission, Zarek felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He gathered his group of warriors, reminding them of their purpose. Tonight, we fight for our future. We fight for a Galactic that is not defined by war, but by peace. We fight for all those who have suffered under the Council's rule. The warriors responded with a roar of approval, their spirits lifted by Zarek's words. They donned their gear, a mix of traditional Galactic armor and Clerian stealth attire. They moved swiftly through the night, the moon casting a pale light on their path. Zarek led them with determination, his heart racing as they approached the supply depot. When they arrived, they saw the guards stationed outside, unaware of the storm that was about to hit them. Zarek signaled for silence and motioned for the Clerian scouts to take the lead. With their agility, they moved like shadows, swiftly dispatching the guards one by one, before slipping back into the darkness. Once inside, Zarek and his team worked quickly. They gathered weapons and supplies, stacking them into bags. The atmosphere was tense. They all knew the Council would soon discover the raid. But before they could leave, they noticed a computer terminal flickering in the corner of the room. "Zarek, we might find valuable information here," one of the engineers shouted. Zarek nodded, understanding the importance of intelligence in their fight. He directed his team to keep loading supplies while he approached the terminal. With a few keystrokes, they were in. What they discovered shocked them. The Council was planning a massive retaliation against the new Galactic, a coordinated attack that would aim to eliminate Zarek and his followers once and for all. Zarek's heart sank. They needed to warn their allies and prepare for what was coming. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the depot, red lights flashing in warning. "We have to move. They know we're here," Zarek shouted, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The team grabbed what they could and dashed towards the exit. As they burst out of the building, they were met by a squad of Galactic soldiers who had been sent to intercept them. The confrontation was fierce. Zarek fought valiantly, his blade cutting through the air with precision. The Clerians moved with agility, darting in and out of combat, taking down enemies before they knew what hit them. But the odds were against them. More soldiers poured in, drawn by the sounds of battle. Zarek felt the weight of desperation as they fought back, knowing they had to escape to survive. "Fall back," he yelled, directing his team toward the forest. They needed to regroup and plan their next move. As they retreated, Zarek glanced back, seeing the chaos they were leaving behind. The fire from their raid illuminated the night, a symbol of their defiance. They made it to the safety of the trees, breathless and exhausted. In the hidden valley, they collapsed, their bodies weary but their spirits unbroken. Zarek gathered them around, determined to keep their hope alive. "We struck a blow tonight," he said, his voice steady. "But this is only the beginning. The Council will retaliate, but we must be ready. We have allies now, and together we will stand against them." His words ignited a fire in their hearts. The battle was not over. It had only just begun. They would regroup, strengthen their alliance with the Clerians, and prepare for the storm that was coming. Zarek understood that the fight ahead would not be easy, but he also knew they had something powerful, the courage to fight for a better future. As they settled into the forest, the sounds of their enemies faded into the distance, but Zarek's resolve only grew stronger. The galaxy would remember the name of the new Galactic, and they would make sure it was a name spoken with respect, not fear. They were ready to rise up and embrace their destiny. The Council strikes back. The days following the raid were filled with a tense anticipation. Zarek and his warriors worked hard to fortify their hidden base, knowing that the Council of Elders would not let their attack go unanswered. The alliance with the Clerians had strengthened their resolve, but the reality of the Council's response loomed over them like a dark cloud. As they trained and strategized, Zarek couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The intel they had stolen from the supply depot had revealed the Council's plans, including a scheduled assault on their hidden valley. Zarek knew they had to prepare for an all-out war. They needed to harness the strength of their alliance and make every second count. One evening, Zarek gathered his warriors and Clerian allies in their training grounds. The moon shone brightly, casting an ethereal glow over the assembly. "Listen up, everyone," Zarek began, his voice steady and commanding. "We know the Council is coming for us. We have information that they plan to strike at dawn tomorrow. This is our chance to show them we are not afraid." Lyra stepped forward, her expression fierce. "We need to set up defenses around our base. We can use the terrain to our advantage. The Council may have numbers, but we have the element of surprise." Zarek nodded, appreciating her insights. "We'll split into teams. Some will prepare traps and barricades, while others will scout the area for enemy movements. We need to be ready for anything." The warriors dispersed with a renewed sense of purpose, each member understanding the gravity of their mission. As they worked through the night, Zarek couldn't help but feel the weight of leadership pressing down on him. He was determined to protect his people, but uncertainty gnawed at him. He glanced at Lyra, who was helping a group of Clerians set up a barricade. Her dedication inspired him. He knew that together they were stronger. As dawn approached, the air grew thick with tension. The warriors completed their preparations just as the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon. Zarek stood at the edge of the valley, scanning the horizon for any signs of the Council's forces. He could feel the pulse of adrenaline in his veins, a mix of fear and excitement. Suddenly, the calm was shattered by the distant sound of marching footsteps. The ground vibrated with the approach of the Council's army. Zarek's heart raced as he turned to face his warriors. "They're here. Take your positions." The warriors took their places behind the barricades, their weapons at the ready. Zarek could see the Council's soldiers forming up in the distance, their banners snapping in the wind. The Galactic had come to show their might, and Zarek was determined to show them that they had underestimated the spirit of the new Galactic. As the enemy drew closer, Zarek felt the fear of the unknown wash over him. Would they be strong enough? He glanced at Lyra, who met his gaze with a confident nod. She believed in him, and he knew he had to fight for her and for all of them. "Remember your training," Zarek shouted to his team, trying to calm the nerves that buzzed in the air. "Stay focused, and we will fight together." The two forces clashed as the Council charged, their numbers overwhelming. Zarek's warriors fought valiantly, utilizing their knowledge of the terrain. They used the natural obstacles to slow the Council's advance, allowing the new Galactic to gain ground despite being outnumbered. Zarek fought at the front lines, his blade glinting as he struck down one soldier after another. He felt the energy of his people rallying around him, drawing strength from his resolve. But as the battle raged on, the Council's soldiers pressed forward, determined to break through their defenses. Just as it seemed the tide might turn against them, Zarek spotted a familiar figure in the midst of the Council's ranks. Alaric, one of the Council's highest commanders and an old friend turned foe. Zarek felt a surge of emotions, betrayal, anger, and a desire to confront his past. "Alaric," Zarek called out, his voice cutting through the chaos of the battlefield. Alaric turned, his eyes widening in recognition. "You've betrayed your own people for the Council's greed." Alaric smirked, his armor shining in the sunlight. "You think you can stop us, Zarek? The Council will crush this rebellion, and you will be nothing but a footnote in history." Zarek charged toward Alaric, determined to show him the strength of the new Galactic. As they clashed, the two former friends fought with fierce intensity, the echoes of their past reverberating in each blow. Meanwhile, the battle continued to rage around them. The warriors of the new Galactic fought valiantly, but the Council's numbers were overwhelming. Zarek could see his allies faltering, exhaustion setting in. He knew they couldn't hold out much longer. "Fall back," he shouted to his warriors. "Regroup at the northern ridge." They needed to retreat and regroup before the council could encircle them completely. As the new Galactic fell back, Zarek felt a surge of anger and frustration. They had fought so hard for their freedom, and now they were being pushed back. He couldn't let Alaric and the council win. "We'll fight again," he vowed, determination burning in his heart. With Lyra at his side, Zarek led the retreat, determined to regroup and find a way to turn the tide of the war. They had lost the battle, but the war was far from over. The spirit of the new Galactic would rise again, stronger than ever. They would fight for their future, for their freedom, and for the legacy of their people. The gathering storm. After the brutal battle with the Council of Elders, Zarek and his warriors retreated to the northern ridge, battered but unbroken. They gathered in a secluded valley, the sun dipping low on the horizon and casting long shadows over their weary faces. The air was thick with tension and unspoken fears. Zarek could see the exhaustion in their eyes, but he also noticed a spark of determination. Lyra stepped forward, her face smeared with dirt and sweat, but her spirit remained unyielded. "We fought bravely today, Zarek, but we need to regroup and strengthen our forces. The council will not stop until they wipe us out." Her voice was steady, echoing the resolve that resonated among the warriors. Zarek nodded, taking a deep breath to steady himself. "We need to gather our allies. The Clarions will stand with us, but we must also reach out to other factions that might be willing to fight against the council. We cannot do this alone." That night, they made plans for their next move. Zarek summoned his trusted warriors and strategists, knowing they needed every mind and heart on board. The flickering campfire illuminated their faces as they sat in a circle, sharing their thoughts and ideas. "We should send messengers to the surrounding clans," suggested Ryan, a tall warrior known for his bravery. "Many have suffered under the council's tyranny. They will join us if we present a united front." "But what if the council intercepts our messengers?" questioned Mira, a skilled archer. "We cannot risk losing our chance to rally more forces." Zarek considered this carefully. "We'll need to send scouts to ensure safe passage. If we can reach the clans, we can show them that the new Galactic is rising again. We will not be silenced." As plans were set in motion, Zarek felt a weight lift from his shoulders. There was hope. They might be down, but they were not out. Together, they would rise again, stronger and more united. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Zarek sent his best scouts into the wilderness, while Lyra worked tirelessly to strengthen their defenses and build alliances. She organized training sessions, ensuring that every warrior was prepared for the battles ahead. The Clarions contributed their knowledge of tactics, sharing insights that could help the new Galactic stand strong against their enemies. Weeks passed, and slowly their efforts began to bear fruit. They received word from several clans eager to join the fight against the council. Some had faced the council's wrath, while others had witnessed the courage of the new Galactic in battle. A sense of unity began to blossom among the factions, igniting a fire of hope within Zarek. But just as they were starting to gain momentum, the council struck again. Under the cover of night, a small force of council soldiers descended upon their encampment, aiming to catch the new Galactic off guard. Zarek's warriors, however, were prepared. The training sessions had paid off, and they fought valiantly to defend their home. Zarek, leading the charge, felt the adrenaline rush through his veins. The sound of clashing metal and battle cries filled the air, drowning out all thoughts of fear. He fought fiercely, determined to protect the future they were building. The council soldiers, taken aback by the new Galactic's resilience, faltered under the pressure. "Push them back," Zarek shouted, rallying his warriors. "Show them we will not be defeated." With renewed vigor, the new Galactic pressed forward, reclaiming ground lost in previous battles. Lyra fought by Zarek's side, her arrows striking true as she aimed for the council soldiers. Their synergy on the battlefield was a sight to behold, a testament to the bond they had forged. As the sun rose, casting light on the chaos around them, Zarek caught a glimpse of Alaric leading a charge against them. Anger surged through him. "This time, I will end this," he vowed, charging toward his former friend. Alaric met Zarek with a smirk, his sword glinting menacingly. "You still think you can win this? You're outnumbered and outmatched, Zarek." His voice was laced with contempt. Zarek felt a surge of determination. "Not if we fight together. The new Galactic is rising, and we will not be silenced." The clash between Zarek and Alaric echoed through the battlefield, their blades clashing with intensity. Zarek focused on his old friend, channeling all his anger and betrayal into each strike. This was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for everything they stood for. Meanwhile, the tide of battle shifted as the new Galactic rallied around Zarek's resolve. They fought with renewed energy, pushing back against the Council forces. Lyra moved through the chaos, her presence a calming influence amid the storm of battle. As the last remnants of the Council soldiers fled, Zarek stood victorious but breathless. He turned to his warriors, pride swelling in his chest. "Today, we fought for our freedom. Today, we showed the Council that we will not back down." Cheers erupted around him, the sound reverberating through the valley. They had reclaimed their ground, and with each victory, the unity among the factions grew stronger. Zarek knew that they were still far from winning the war, but the gathering storm of rebellion was finally taking shape. They would fight together, not just as the new Galactic, but as a coalition of warriors determined to bring down the Council's tyranny. With newfound resolve, Zarek prepared for the next steps in their fight. They would gather their allies, strengthen their defenses, and prepare for the inevitable clash that awaited them. The battle was far from over, but with each step, they were closer to reclaiming their future. Together, they would forge a new destiny, one where the spirit of the new Galactic would shine bright against the darkness of oppression. The alliance forged. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the valley where Zarek and his warriors had fought fiercely just days before. The victory against the Council soldiers had brought a surge of hope, but Zarek knew that this was just the beginning. The alliance they had begun to forge needed to be solidified, and they needed to be ready for the Council's next move. After the battle, Zarek called for a gathering of all the clans they had reached out to. The Clarions, the Tailory, and several other factions that had suffered under the Council's rule were coming together for the first time in a long while. It was a crucial moment. Their shared experiences could unite them against a common enemy. As the clans began to arrive, Zarek felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Each leader brought their own stories of loss, pain, and hope. He wanted to ensure they felt welcome, that they understood they were all fighting for the same cause. He stood at the front of the clearing, a confident figure clad in armor, ready to face them. "Welcome, warriors and leaders," Zarek called out, his voice carrying across the gathering. "Today, we stand united against a common enemy. We are not just a collection of clans. We are a coalition, a force to be reckoned with." The crowd murmured in agreement, and Zarek could see determination in their eyes. He continued, "We have suffered under the Council's tyranny for too long. But together, we can rise above our pain and forge a future where we are free." Lyra stood beside Zarek, her presence strong and supportive. She spoke next, her voice steady and clear. "Each of us brings unique strengths to this alliance. The Clarions have unmatched tactical skills, while the Tailory excel in resilience and resourcefulness. If we pool our knowledge and resources, we can create a formidable force." Several leaders stepped forward to share their stories. An elder from the Clarions, tall and imposing, spoke about the losses his people had endured. "We lost many to the Council's greed. They destroyed our homes, but they have not destroyed our spirit. We stand with you, Zarek." The Tailory leader, a fierce woman with fiery red hair, nodded in agreement. "Together, we can reclaim what is rightfully ours. Our people are strong, and we will not shy away from the fight." As the leaders voiced their support, Zarek felt a surge of hope. They were building something special, a bond that could withstand any storm. He proposed a plan. Let us train together. We can share our knowledge and prepare for the next confrontation with the Council. We need to be ready. The group agreed enthusiastically, and plans were made for joint training sessions. Over the next few weeks, warriors from each clan trained side by side. They learned from each other, honing their skills and strategies. Zarek felt the camaraderie grow among them. They were becoming a true alliance, not just in name, but in spirit. As they trained, rumors of the Council's growing anger reached their ears. Zarek knew that the Council would not take their losses lightly. He also realized that time was of the essence. They needed to act before the Council struck again. One night, as Zarek and Lyra stood on a ridge overlooking the camp, the stars twinkling brightly above them, Zarek voiced his concerns. The Council won't stay quiet for long. We must make our next move before they gather their forces. We need to strike first. Lyra nodded, her expression serious. We could target one of their supply routes. If we disrupt their resources, it will give us a significant advantage. Zarek considered her suggestion. It was a bold plan, but it could work. We'll need to be stealthy. We can't afford to engage them head-on yet. Our forces are still growing, but we must act wisely. With their plan in place, Zarek gathered his best warriors and allies. He laid out the strategy for their mission, ensuring everyone understood the importance of their task. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and Zarek could feel the adrenaline coursing through him. The following night, they set out under the cover of darkness, their hearts racing with the thrill of the upcoming confrontation. The moonlight illuminated their path as they moved swiftly through the dense forest. Zarek led the way, his senses sharp and focused. The air was tense, filled with the promise of battle. As they approached the Council's supply route, Zarek's pulse quickened. They could see the flickering lights of the supply camp in the distance. He raised a hand to signal for silence, and the warriors fell into a hushed stillness. They were close now. Remember, we're here to disrupt, not to engage, Zarek whispered, his eyes scanning the area. We strike swiftly and retreat before they can rally. With a nod, the warriors moved forward, their training kicking in as they executed their plan flawlessly. They sabotaged supply crates, lit small fires to create chaos, and quickly slipped away into the shadows. The Council soldiers, caught off guard and confused, struggled to respond as their supplies were destroyed. Zarek felt a rush of exhilaration as they completed their mission. They had succeeded in their first significant blow against the Council. As they retreated back to their camp, a sense of pride filled the air. They had proven to themselves that they were capable of standing up against their oppressors. When they returned, the atmosphere in the camp was electric. Warriors greeted them with cheers, celebrating their successful mission. Zarek's heart swelled with pride. They were truly becoming a force to be reckoned with. But even as they celebrated, Zarek knew they had to remain vigilant. The Council would retaliate, and the storm that had been gathering was about to break. The battle for their freedom was far from over, but together, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The alliance they had forged would be the cornerstone of their strength as they prepared for the war to come. The storm breaks. As the dawn broke over the horizon, a thick veil of unease hung in the air. Zarek stood at the edge of the camp, watching as the sun's rays painted the sky in hues of orange and gold. The recent success of their mission against the Council had filled the hearts of the warriors with hope and determination. Yet deep within him, a nagging sense of foreboding lingered. He knew the Council would not let their loss go unanswered. In the days following their successful raid on the supply route, the coalition had intensified their training sessions. Zarek led his warriors, teaching them the art of stealth, strategy, and teamwork. They practiced tirelessly, honing their skills and preparing for the inevitable counterstrike. Lyra often worked alongside him, her fierce spirit motivating the others to push their limits. But as the days passed, Zurich couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. They needed to act quickly and decisively before the council gathered its forces and struck back. He decided to call another meeting with the leaders of the clans, hoping to devise a plan that would ensure their survival. Gathering in the central clearing of their camp, Zurich looked at the faces of the leaders before him. They were weary but resolute. "We have made great strides in uniting our clans, but we must remain vigilant. The council will retaliate, and we need to be ready." An elder from the Clearians, his brow furrowed with worry, spoke up. "We've already lost so much. What if they come for us with their full force? We cannot afford to be reckless." Zurich nodded in understanding. "I agree, but we cannot wait idly for them to attack. We must find a way to strike first. We need to disrupt their plans before they can organize a counteroffensive." Lyra chimed in, her voice steady and determined. "Perhaps we should consider hitting one of their key bases. If we can weaken their command structure, we might buy ourselves some time." The leaders murmured amongst themselves, contemplating the risks and rewards. Zurich could see the resolve growing in their eyes. He knew that taking the fight to the council was dangerous, but it was necessary. "If we move quickly and decisively, we can achieve the element of surprise," he urged. Finally, after much discussion, they settled on a plan. They would target one of the council's main bases, where supplies and troops were concentrated. The attack would require precision and coordination, and Zurich knew they needed to work together as a unified force. As they prepared for the operation, the tension in the camp grew palpable. Warriors checked their weapons, while others gathered supplies and equipment. Zurich felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was a pivotal moment for their alliance. On the night before the attack, Zurich couldn't sleep. He wandered the camp, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. He found Lyra sitting by the fire, lost in her own thoughts. "Can't sleep?" she asked, looking up at him with a knowing smile. Zurich chuckled softly. "No, not really. I keep thinking about everything that could go wrong tomorrow." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "We're taking a huge risk, but we've come too far to turn back now. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who has suffered under the council's rule." Her words resonated deeply with Zurich. He realized that their mission was larger than any individual. It was about freedom and justice for all. "You're right," he replied, his voice steady. "We need to trust in our training and each other. Together, we can make a difference." As dawn approached, Zurich gathered the warriors, rallying them with a speech that echoed through the camp. "Today, we stand together as one. We are no longer just individual clans. We are a united front. Our goal is clear. We will strike hard, we will strike fast, and we will take back what is ours." Cheers erupted from the warriors, their spirits lifted by Zurich's words. With the sun rising in the sky, they prepared to march. The moment they had trained for was finally at hand. They moved silently through the dense forest, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. Zurich led the way, his instincts guiding them through the underbrush. As they drew closer to the council's base, he could see the lights flickering in the distance. The tension in the air was electric, each step bringing them closer to the confrontation they had long anticipated. When they reached the outskirts of the base, Zurich signaled for them to halt. He took a moment to survey the area, spotting guards patrolling the perimeter and supply crates stacked high. "This is it," he whispered to Lyra beside him. "We hit them fast and hard." With a nod, he signaled the attack. The warriors surged forward, charging into the base with fierce determination. The surprise on the council soldiers' faces was palpable as they scrambled to defend themselves. Zurich fought with a fierce intensity, every movement fueled by the anger of years of oppression. The battle was chaotic but invigorating. Zurich felt a surge of energy as he fought alongside his comrades, the sound of clashing metal ringing in his ears. They worked together seamlessly, taking down guards and securing key areas of the base. Their training had paid off, and they were striking with precision. But just as victory seemed within reach, Zarek spotted a group of council soldiers gathering near a communications hub. Realizing they could call for reinforcements, he shouted to his warriors, "We need to take out that hub. If they call for help, we'll be overwhelmed." Lyra moved with agility, leading a small team toward the hub. Zarek fought his way through the fray, determination pushing him forward. He could see Lyra and her team engaging the soldiers, and he felt a surge of pride. They were fighting not just for survival, but for a brighter future. With one final push, they reached the communications hub. Zarek led the charge, overpowering the remaining guards and securing the area. As the dust settled, he looked around at the destruction they had caused. Supplies were in disarray, and the council soldiers were scattered. But the victory was short-lived. In the distance, Zarek heard the unmistakable sound of approaching reinforcements. The council had sent for backup. "We need to regroup," he shouted, urgency in his voice. As they began to retreat, Zarek felt a mix of triumph and dread. They had achieved a significant blow to the council, but now they faced the consequences. With enemy reinforcements on the way, they had to act quickly to escape. The coalition warriors moved swiftly, their hearts racing as they navigated through the chaos. Zarek led them toward the cover of the trees, adrenaline fueling their escape. They had struck the council where it hurt, but now they needed to survive to fight another day. As they finally emerged from the base, Zarek looked back, determination burning in his chest. They had taken a stand, and even though the storm was breaking, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would rise, united in their fight for freedom. And the council would soon learn that they were no longer the hunted. They were the hunters.